All right, welcome back, Joe and Jeff, and everyone listening. We are here to talk about the solution to the problem we pitched last week. And that is, if QBRs are not what we need to be focused on, what do we need to focus on? If how can you have simple conversations that will drive revenue in your business, and how do you identify a niche audience so that what you're doing is augmented and that you really understand and can win bids against pretty much any other MSP out there? So I'm going to kick this off. What is a SBR? How does it differ from like what you call a traditional QBR?
Well, so what we talk about in terms of a strategic business review is you're going to go in and talk to your customer about their business needs. What we typically see with a QBR or a technical business review is you're going to go in and talk tech, and people just aren't particularly interested in that. So instead, you go in and you say, "Hey, what's going on in your business? What has gone well over the past like 90 days? What hasn't gone well? What are you concerned about? What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to?" So we have a format that we suggest people go through, and you have a conversation with them about where their business is going and what their business is doing. You'll have a quick update in terms of some statistics. We usually say like a 5-minute overview of how help desk is doing, and then you get straight into this conversation around their business, and it's great because they're just going to open up. And we had one of our new clients. People are always very nervous to do this, Adam. They're so nervous. Like, oh my God, I'm going to go in and actually ask these questions because it feels so like
Weird.
not technical. And he goes in and he's sitting down, and the tech guys say, "Oh, sorry, we can't answer these questions. We have to bring in the CEO." So then he brings in the CEO so the CEO can sit there and have the questions, right? And that's like the ideal place. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be stuck with a lower level tech person. You want to have the conversation with the CEO about where that business is going so that you can then bring your solutions in to solve those problems and help them grow. And if you've done this same SBR with 10 or 12 other people in the same industry, you know exactly what they're going to say. You've already come up with some cool stuff to deliver to them, but it's all focused on them, their needs, and where they want to go as a business.
Yeah, and as Skip would say if he was on this podcast, or Mike Giovanni would say, or any of the other guests I've had, is that your job when you do something like an SBR is to shut up. Your job is to listen to the client and understand where they're coming. They need to teach you during a strategic business review. You don't need to teach them. That's not
Correct.
your job. Your job is to listen and learn about this unique company that's sitting in front of you. Even if you're doing all attorneys, like Joe said, each one of them has a little bit of different audience.
Yeah.
That's how they're defining. Like there was 11 in one building or 7 in one building, and they're all working on different cases. And they may have a different demographic. One might be after teenagers. One might be after 20-something females. One might be after middle-aged men. You don't know, but listen to them so that you can help understand what's going on and the unique solutions that can help them with their problems.
Yep.
And that is what's going to ultimately push you forward. So what's a good question you can ask in an SBR? How do I discover who my client is?
A great question. And it was this is the question that brought in that CEO, right? Is when you look at the last 6 months of the business, what are you proud of? And then all of a sudden he was sitting in front of like like their in-house tech person. And it was like the cartoons. It was like, blink, blink, hold on. Hold on. Then he got up, went, and came in with the CEO in tow and said, "Could you ask that question again?" And then he asked that question again. And the CEO talked for an hour and 10 minutes. And all he did, that was the one, there's 6 questions. That was the first one. The CEO talked for an hour and 10 minutes because so much had happened that the guy couldn't even start to talk, right? Yeah. So the CEO talked and all he did was take notes for that hour and 10 minutes. And the only things that were coming out of his mouth is like, "Tell me more about that." "Oh, how was that?"
Take a class in active listening, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
You'll
What
start
did
to
that?
you'll start to sound like a therapist, but
What
it
did that?
works.
What did that mean to the company? Oh, oh, you're onboarding 5 new people a month. How's that going?
So what I'm going to say out there is I can hear the MSPs disagreeing with you. I can hear
Yep.
them in my head. It's in the future, and they're listening to this podcast going, "That's none of my business." And like, okay, fine. Continue to be a Best Buy. Continue to resell
Exactly.
technology. In the meantime, the people that understand that this is their business, this
Yeah.
is something they need to know, they're going to crush it
Crush it.
when they talk to the clients.
Yep.
You can spend an entire I spent like 3 hours one time talking to a panel of teachers at a nonprofit school, and I just sat there and listened to them talk about their school, the complaints, the issues, the different problems they're having. And when we walked out, I had pitched them 10 different I had 10 different ideas on how to help them move forward with Chromebook programs, how to help them really use their business, the classroom space more efficiently. I don't know nothing about technology. I know nothing about education in the classrooms,
No.
but they did. And I was able to point out flaws in their logic. Like they still had a computer lab. This is like 2017. They had a computer lab. And I look over in the corner of the room we're sitting in, and there's a mobile lab right there. So why are you dedicating an entire room of your school to computers? And I explained to them why computer labs used to be a great idea, but they're not anymore. And they're like, oh my gosh, we could have an entire 30 more students be coming here.
Woohoo!
That's a lot of revenue, people. And so we're sitting there and having this discussion. And yes, none of the stuff is in my area of expertise, but I don't need to be an expert.
No.
They're the experts. I'm
Yeah.
just adding flavor to this conversation.
Like,
Go ahead.
yeah, well, the thing to remember is that you're a technology expert and you can see things that they can't see in the problems that they have. But if you don't know what the problems are, you can't see the things.
Or you may think you know what the problems are, and you're looking at the wrong issue. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, it is great. It's the people building the road in the forest, right?
Yeah.
They're making great time going through the forest, but they're going in the wrong direction. Or, and in your house, you ever have a spouse that says, you never help me. And you're like, I just cleaned half the house. But really the problem that they have is driving the kids around to all the appointments and all of the school drop-offs.
Right.
And that's the thing that frustrates them, not the clean house. So you're working on the wrong thing. Whereas if you had just taken one of those appointments, taken one kid to a doctor's office, it would have made your spouse's life so much better.
Yeah.
And as the person in my family who carpools a lot, like I can drive 3 hours in town, use up half my Tesla battery, and never leave a 6-block radius. That's my life, guys. And my wife and I split duties pretty evenly. And that's how you feel valued. And your customers are the same way. You got to work on the things that they value and that they're concerned about. So I'm going to bring up a nice conversation I had earlier today, and I want Joe and Jeff to tear this apart. So I'm talking to a MSP that is very, very niche. And he was asking on when he does his audit, should he ask what kinds of vines the vineyards are growing? Is that a question a technology professional should care about? Joe or Jeff? Who wants to take this one?
You go first, Jeff.
All right. So the answer to that, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised when I say the answer to that is yes. You've got to know this.
Absolutely, yes.
But let's get it. Why? Like, why do you have to know? Why, as a technology person, do you have to know the vines? And the reason is that the vines are crucial to your client success, and there will be technology solutions that will help them better manage their vines. There's everything from irrigation to now there are actually drones that fly in between and measure spoilage. They'll measure that. They're actually digitally measuring these days the amount of yeast on the grapes, the ripeness of the grapes, the technology that is now going into managing a vineyard is just growing exponentially like everywhere else. So if you don't know about the vines, then you cannot be talking about the technology that they need to better manage those vines. So you're not solving the technology problems that they need to have solved in order to produce a better product, deliver a better product, and make more money.
Now, I want to point out something to everybody here. Joe's just chomping at the bit, right? I'll give you in a second.
Yeah.
Jeff just crushed every single one of you MSPs who wanted to
That's
go
good,
and support this this vineyard. Let's say this is one of those big conglomerate vineyards. They've got thousands and thousands of acres. He just showed us that he understands the language and the problems of these vineyards. Listen, he talked about the yeast, the different solutions that are out there. Like, they may not use any of these solutions, but the fact that he knows about them and can just rattle them off the cuff like that, you can't beat him. I don't care how good your MSP is. You can't beat him. He could be a two-man shop, and he just won that bid.
Yeah.
Joe, go.
Yeah, I can hear the MSPs going, but that's not what I work on. I'm in Office 365 and I work on the back office and I work on the infrastructure, and that's what I do. And so, yeah, if you want to be a janitor or a plumber for the rest of time, go for it, right? Do it.
Yeah.
But don't expect to make heart surgeon money. If you want to, because this is what's going to happen. You're going to come in, you're going to do that, and then they're going to have this problem. They're going to tell you, look, we have this problem with the vines, and you're going to say, no, that's not my problem. And they're going to go find a consultant that's going to come in. It's going to charge them $20,000 a month to consult on this. They're going to put in all the technology. You're going to have to integrate it for the same price that you're
Right.
getting paid now.
Right.
You're
And
going
you're
to
still
have to
doing
do
Office
all the integration
365.
work, all the stuff. The only difference is you're not going to make any of the money for it. So
That's exactly
you want to
what
do
happened.
it? Go for it, buddy. Not a problem. That's all I got to say. That's how I'm jumping at the bit.
I remember just one other. I remember
Rant.
talking.
Mic drop. Can't drop the mic. It's on the stand.
Well, I remember talking tech with it wasn't PG&E, but it was a PG&E subsidiary or supplier or something, and they and they're looking at different suppliers, different providers of technology, and the thing that really won them over, the thing that they really needed, was a way to integrate the information from drones that were scanning power lines in forested areas so they could identify potential hotspots for fires. And if you couldn't do that, if you didn't have a way, like, you didn't have to know about fires, you didn't have to know about energy production, but you sure had to know how to take the data from that thing, put it over here, and feed it into the analytics system. If you can't do that, you are never getting the contract.
Yeah.
Because they can't operate without that.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of a niche. Like, look at your existing portfolio. And so I'm going to ask this question to Jeff and Joe as well. Is, okay, you're an MSP. You've been casting a wide net all these years. You have been convinced that you need to sell more technology. And now, as of this podcast, you have decided, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong. So you've got this wide net that you cast. You've got all these clients under you. How do you determine what your niche should be?
Well, so I have a pretty philosophical answer to that. And it's basically, you actually are in a market where, unless you're really looking at underwater basket weaving in Olympic-sized pools, there is a group of people who do that thing. There are probably plenty of people who do underwater basket weaving in Olympic-sized pools as well. But there is whatever thing that you can come up with, you almost certainly there is a large enough market to grow a multi-million-dollar MSP out of this. So the question becomes, who do you want to work with? Where is somebody, like, look at your clients now and look at the ones that you enjoy working with, who have problems that are interesting to you, who you like having the meetings with them or talking to them, and start there. It doesn't have to be this big analytical, I'm going to take the next 3 years to figure out the perfect niche. There's no perfect niche.
No.
Any niche is fine. So go find people that you like to work with, problems that you like to fix, and go fix those problems.
Any niche is fine. And here's the thing. It's what Jeff said, right? Like they came to you at one point and said, hey, we're doing this cool thing. Can you figure out how to integrate it into that? And you wanted to do it. You wanted to spend time with them. You figured it all out. You know how it works. That's your niche.
Yeah. And, you know, being able to have a unique offering as well. Like we go back to that option of they had a grant writer for these nonprofits. Let's say you like working with manufacturing plants. Well, how many of those manufacturing plants need a C coder?
Yeah.
Somebody who understands C. Now, are they paying a lot of money for an outsourced firm to do simple C coding so they can update the microcontrollers? Then maybe.
Yeah.
I would ask my clients to say, how much are you guys spending on C level updates? Like, well, we've got somebody internally who kind of does it. It'd be really nice to have somebody who is good at it. And like, well, what would you be doing?
Adam,
then you can
interrupt you. I'm going to cut you off right there because that is the SBR conversation. You are having the SBR conversation, and so when you go through our SBR training, we're going to have you ask those questions so that you actually are understanding exactly what that problem is, and then you can come back with a solution. So one way to really start identifying your niche is to go to your current clients, start having those SBR conversations, find a little thing like that. Oh, they need some C support for the microcontrollers, put a solution together, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not hard.
That's an engineering thing. You might have existing staff who are already good at C level and they like to play around with Arduinos. They like to play around with microcontrollers, and that's something they do in their spare time because they got a computer science degree like me, and they have nothing to do with that degree other than the architectural knowledge they got from it.
Right.
They happen to be good at C level programming, and so they can go in and charge $200 an hour for microcontroller development to make one simple change, and that's an offering your company now has. So when you go in there as a 3 to 5 man shop, and you're like, oh yeah, we can help in your manufacturing plant, and you're going against the big people in the town, and you can say, just like we talked about earlier, they had a grant writer. When you can go and say, oh yeah, we do microcontroller updates for you.
Yeah,
they're like, holy crap, that will save us $10,000 a month.
Yeah, and all we do is add an extra $50 a seat or an extra $75 a seat for that. We don't even charge you by the hour, right?
But
we add 500 a seat. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
There's people who do that just fine.
Yeah.
They charge $650, $750 a seat because they do this level of support, which is still cheaper than hiring a $7,000 to $8,000 a month employee.
Absolutely.
Who's specifically trained for this.
Absolutely.
And they're getting a lot more out of you. But what you want to do is you won't know that they need this level of support if you don't do an SBR. If you don't ask these strategic questions, sit back and listen to how the business is run. And when you hear that they do a lot of microcontroller updates because they're trying to optimize how the assembly line is running, and they have to bring in a contractor once a quarter, and it's such a pain because the guy's kind of a jerk anyways, then you can say, well, it's just C and it's assembly level. Why don't we just go ahead and hire somebody? Or we've got Bob over here who does this. You do your own math and you figure out in your own company, like, look, we could hire a C-level programmer for $75,000 a year, but we've got 10 clients that do manufacturing who all need this support. That's an extra, $300,000 of revenue a year. That's a no-brainer.
And by the way,
you can do your own business analysis because you did a business analysis on your clients and understand their needs. But if you never ask those questions, you won't know the gap out there that you could be filling. You can keep selling firewalls for 5%, or you can start selling services for 75%.
Yeah.
And once you've updated one microcontroller, you can almost bet that half the other clients need the same update.
Yeah,
right?
they all have little adjustments that they do. I know a fair amount when it comes to C level and microcontrollers, and I actually used to work in college at an assembly plant for making hose reels. It was a mindless job. It was very boring. But I was very, very interested in what the controllers were doing, the programmers were doing.
Yeah.
And it's constantly like, hey, we just need to add a 1 second delay here. Hey, we need to do this. We need that. You can offer that. I'm just using it as an example, just like the vineyards. You could be saying, hey, did you know we can get you one of those drones for $1,500? It'll do the scanning, and you've already got the software that supports that. Or going over and saying, hey, the coffee shop, did you know that there are ways to look at this in a different way. Hey, hot dog vendor, we can get you guaranteed internet access no matter where you are in the world, so you never have that problem where you can't run a credit card. Let's talk about these solutions, but you get to them by having a strategic mindset rather than a technical one, and going in and listening to the customer, or talking to a Joe and Jeff. I want to give them a little time to give a pitch for their company. Like, how do you learn to do this stuff? You don't have the confidence to do it. How do you learn to have strategic discussions with your client? I know here at Humanize, we do teach a little bit, but there's so much to know that you almost need an entire program for that. If there was a program for that, where would they find it?
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, they'd find it right here. Start, Grow, Manage, if there was a program for that. And it's really, you know, as we're looking at what we were just talking about, how do you niche and all that. Hold on, I gotta really think about this because I really.
Okay, why you think about it? I'll let you know. So we'll put, like, first of all, for the strategic business review, we will give you, Adam, a link to the strategic business review training that we have, and a discount for your people.
I'll put it right in the description for everyone.
And then we also have a couple of introductory courses that you can take, the launch formula and the accelerator, which are about putting these structures together for your company, so that you can really start building the infrastructure that you need to deliver better SBRs and deliver better strategic results across the board. And then obviously we have support programs that go after that, but that's a great way to get started. Put these things in place, start delivering SBRs. Think about defining your niche and defining the problem you solve for people. And we have lots of stuff on that on our website as well, where you can go get more information about how to get started.
Yeah, definitely. And I really want people to know, like yes, Humanize IT, we have our 1 year program for VCIO kind of stuff, right? This is so much bigger, guys. We'll help you talk to your clients. We'll help you build out a process. But if you actually want to go through a full program, that's where Joe and Jeff come in. That's where they're going to teach you that MBA level. That companies like mine, we don't have time to teach you all that stuff. And there's so much more, and it is not hard. It's just a mindset shift. And you guys are all really good as engineers at learning new things.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, when I went through my MBA program around 2010, like, I got about halfway through and I realized I didn't need to learn any more about supply chain management. I'd gotten as much as I needed to out of an MBA program. Like all good IT people are, I dropped out of the program. And but the things I learned in those first few classes about how culture works, how to talk to a business, how to do managerial level accounting and finance, it was eye-opening. I was like, okay, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get my A, and I'm going to move on to the next course. Instead, what I started realizing was there was so much I did not understand about corporate culture and how to lead a company and lead a program. That was just a gap for me. And it really opened my eyes. You need to have education in this to have an expanded resource. And it will pay you back 10-fold, 20-fold as you realize, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong this whole time.
Yeah.
I'm going to take what I'm doing well. I'm going to augment it with what I'm going to learn from Joe and Jeff and friends. And I'm going to take my MSP to that next level. There's a reason why you're hitting the glass ceiling, people. It's knowledge.
And that's the thing that I wanted to say, right? That I was like, you when you talked to me, I'm like, I guess that is, you had said earlier when they cast this wide net, and now you're asking them to narrow down, right? And as an MSP, that goes against your immune system. You're like, no, right? Because you think that there's less market. But the thing that you have to do is, if you just do the numbers, there's about 33 million businesses in the US, and there's about 50,000 MSPs. If you just do the numbers, you niche, You need about 100 or 200 clients to have a $10 million business if you're niched, because you can
Yes.
charge a whole lot more.
Yes.
So you just got to lean into that, using that strategic business review process, thinking like a business owner, doing the things that Adam is telling you in the VCIO program, doing the things that Jeff is talking about. That's going to get you to where you need to be. So that mindset shift, doing that, will get you what you always wanted out of your business that you're not getting now.
Yeah, and to sum all this up, what Jeff and Joe and I and people like us know as vendors is that we see firsthand MSPs who will cut their clientele by 50% and triple their revenue.
100%.
Absolutely.
And they're so much happier.
So much happier.
So much happier. And we could have like 10 more podcasts just talking about that. Real world examples. We could have them on this podcast and talk to them. Ask around to your MSP friends. You see them in the forums. They're all over the place. They literally imagine if you could cut your number of clients in half and triple your revenue. It is 100% doable when you're doing a niche. And it's not that it's harder. It's easier.
It's easier.
It's easier because now you're delivering things that no one else can on a subject that you know a lot about. You're delivering things that you know more about than any other MSP in your area, and you're able to charge triple because you're helping your clients grow. So they're happy to pay you for that. So this has been a great podcast. I know we're over time here, Joe and Jeff. Thanks for coming on. We need to have you on again. We have a lot more to talk about.
We just talk all day long and then just
Yeah.
wrap it up in a podcast.
Yeah, we'll just chat on here and just eat up some time. So it's been great having you guys on. There's a great website I'll put in the comments for you guys. Startgrowmanage.com. That's where they come from. If you want to hear more about this, get educated, we'll have a link down below with a nice coupon, and we'll be able to get you guys into a program where you can smash through that glass ceiling and see and implement some of those things that you guys are talking about, because it works. And you'll hear it from everybody in the industry who's talking about leadership in MSPs. This stuff works.
Yeah.
You just got to go with it. And you got to understand that you're working too hard for too little. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. Strategic business reviews are great. We'll see you all at our next event. We'll try to have you on here in 6 months or so.
All
Sounds
right.
great. Thanks,
Great.
Adam.
Thanks, Adam.